by my Savior's side, over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, I'll join the happy angel band, over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, there with the mighty host I'll stand, over in the glory land. What a joyful thought that my Lord I'll see, over in the glory land, and with kindred dear there forever I'll be, over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, I'll join the happy angel band, over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, there with the mighty host I'll stand, over in the glory land. Well, I'm on my way to that mansion fair, over in the glory land, to sing God's praise and His glory share, over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, I'll join the happy angel band, over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, there with the mighty host I'll stand, over in the glory land.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can get a hold of me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you reach out to me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Otherwise, if you need to get a hold of me about the radio show, it's oppermanreport@gmail.com. If you like our show, check out our Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. I think notice a pattern there. Opperman Report. Opperman this, Opperman that. The Opperman Report Patreon, we have a new episode up there right now in advance, early and ad-free. Misguided Patriots with this fellow, I think his name is John Gagne, whose mother and father were both CIA. But kind of like undercover. But his mother later on admits it and talks about her. It has all these 8 hours of recordings that he has up on his TikTok, the Misguided Patriots TikTok and the Misguided Patriots website. Really nice guy. It's so a breath of fresh air to have a guest come on and they're not all jaded. They're not all scheming, and maneuvering and, trying to sell books and all that stuff like that. This guy had an interesting life. He wanted to figure out what the heck was going on with his parents. He found a manuscript that his mother had written and all these recordings that she had left. So he went on this journey to explore what's going on, and he got an eye-opening. And his father was as a psychiatrist, but then also too was designing I forget what it was, like a B-2 bomber or something like that. And the parents are both brilliant, and he grew up on a mental institution facility, where his father worked as a psychiatrist. So the guy's brushed up against a lot of stuff. And then the Kennedy assassination comes into it, and then his father dies in a single car accident. Very suspicious. Great interview. I really enjoyed it. I was going to play it tonight, okay? And I had another 1 hour interview scheduled with Tony Spurl, the private investigator who is best known to this audience as Bill Mentzer's private investigator. First interviewed Tony Spurl about a good 10, 12 years ago. Because it comes to me as Bill Mentzer's private investigator. Bill Mentzer's in prison, who was a professional hitman. He was one of Larry Flint's bodyguards, they call them. But he had a crew of hitmen and a crew of thugs and guys doing work. And he's involved in the murder of Roy Radin. That was highly publicized in the book by Maury Terry. And so Mr. Spurl, at the time, he was calling himself Tony Washington Shapiro because he had an incident in his early career as a police officer that he's not proud of, when he doesn't like to draw attention to it. That's his own personal business. Anybody can look it up and find it. It's well known. Hasn't discussed it with me, although one day we'd like to. He's going to be coming back several times to go over all the information he has. He's got a ton of information, which is what happened is we were supposed to do a 1-hour interview, and then there's just so much here. There's just so much content here. It turned into a 2-hour interview, and we could have gone on for another 2 hours, all right? And we will be going on for another 2 hours. He's also hooking us up with Nicholas Schreck, who's a very interesting character himself, who's actually lived with Tony Spurl. He's lived in the same... so Tony Spurl comes to me in the first place to tell me that, hey, Bill Mentzer's my client. I know Bill Mentzer. We talk all the time. There's no way Mr. Mentzer could be involved in these things or be considered Charles Manson too. He's not involved in any of these type of things. And then, the little by little, it turns out that Mr. Spurl here is himself involved with all these people and very intimately involved with the Manson people. Worked himself with Larry Flint and all those Larry Flint hitmen and spooks and bodyguards and such. And got me the other guest on there, Mr. Alan Graham, who I found out just recently passed away. Alan Graham was the brother-in-law of from the Doors, Jim Morrison from the Doors, and also he was known as Captain Pink. He was also Larry Flint's head of security. And the guy's got a wealth of information. Did 3 hours with him, And I tell you, you would think the gold that comes out of these men's mouth, I interview these people, Tony Spurl, Captain Pink there, Alan Graham, Morrison's brother-in-law. And you'd think that people that are so fascinated by this topic, the Protestant Church and the Son of Sam and all this stuff, and the Manson and all these things, would be riveted to this. They would be memorizing every word that comes out of this. But no, they drool over this Google stuff by people that have no involvement. Here we're talking people directly involved. Couldn't possibly be more involved. But they're just fascinated by that crap. And the crap gets elevated too, so you can't blame them for that. A lot of people are just they just go for that low-hanging fruit. That's what's handed to them. It's easy to access. It's low-hanging, so they just go for it and they just fall for it. I can't blame people for those kind of things. I'm getting more acceptable or more easygoing in my old age. So we discuss many, many things around Flint, Ted Gunderson. By the way, man, really interesting because you can tell that Spurl listens to a lot of my stuff. And by the way, from the first time I've had him on the show, this other woman came and contacts me who claims she was a Mentzer's girlfriend at the time, and she has this whole script she's reading to me. I believe that Spurl sent it to me. If people listen to that. And you got to put two and two together. I'm not going to spoon feed you all the information here, everything that's going on here. You got to listen for yourself. So we get into Mentzer. One of the things he talks about Mentzer is, and the murder of Roy Radin, is that he doesn't believe that it was a planned murder. He thinks they were just going to beat him up and scare him. And when you listen to the way he tells the story, it makes sense. Because why would Radin, who's a heavy hitter himself, he has guys, he has cops, he was working all those cop deals with the Benevolent Association when you're shaking down those stores and stuff like that. He had the chief of police with him, so why would he bring DeMond Wilson, with him as his bodyguard? That just makes no sense. But if you go into a fist fight, you bring your buddy. If you go into an attempted assassination, you bring your cop buddies, or you pay some cops to go with you, off-duty cops, especially around that time. So he says it was just going to be a warning, a beating him up, not a hit, an assassination. But one of the fellows, I forget which one he said, either Greg or Marty, lost his temper and lost control and messed the whole thing up. So we talk about all that. We also talk about our individual experiences with Delon Wilson, too, that we both talked to him and reached out to him over the years. We talk about so much stuff in this. Other things around Charles Manson, some new stuff that you may be hearing. I'm reaching out to the guys at AMI, the National Enquirer and the Globe, and all that stuff to see if they want to take this story. I'll send it to them tomorrow after it plays tonight, about how the Mexican cartels and how they're involved in voodoo and black magic and Santeria and all that stuff like that, wanted Charles Manson's ashes as part of their ceremonies. And they were willing to pay, like hundreds of thousands of dollars for it, up to millions of dollars for it. There's that. And about all he talks too about how Manson went down to Mexico for one part and trained with these Mexican brujas and black magicians down there, which is, I think, new information to me. But it gets into some stuff too that people overlook. About Manson with the Star Entertainment, the escort service that he owned. He owned a business and with an office with escorts and stuff like that. And about how these women around him, these young girls, were prostitutes and dancers and stuff. And how it's misportrayed, and then the drug dealing that went on too. We get into Polanski and possible snuff films and pornography and stuff like that. Then we get into Larry Flint and blackmail. We get into a lot of stuff, man, for 2 hours. There's a lot of good material. Really, I can't imagine where else you're going to find this kind of stuff. Like, there's not a lot of people too that they trust that they're going to talk to. I met this guy about 13 years ago. And we've been involved in other things off the air. I've gone to him for advice about certain matters, and he's helping me out with certain things. So, you get to know people and trust each other, and he knows I'm not going to stab him in the back either. Mess with him. Talks about how Mensa was a bodyguard at this party by this fellow named Fig, who was a close magician doing, he was a lawyer too and stuff like that, and had this big real estate thing, had a lot of money, used to throw these big giant parties. And at one of these parties, Mensa was a bodyguard there doing security, and behind a locked door, the estranged husband, who was going through a divorce with this very, very well-known musician, died of a drug overdose behind those closed doors, and how we've always both found that to be very suspicious. Talks about Gunderson being involved with Larry Flint. We talk about that. Gunderson being involved with Maury Terry. We talk about that. He confirmed some of the stuff that I said about Gunderson telling me, Ted Gunderson, the FBI agent in charge of Los Angeles during the whole COINTELPRO program. By the way, so many people, when I'm trying to explain to someone, I'll say, hey, this guy's like a COINTELPRO type, or it's part of COINTELPRO. Like, their eyes kind of gloss over, like, yeah, COINTELPRO, that's so far away. But, here I was, when I was working with Action Research, the Florida investigative company, way, way back, God, Zooks in the 90s, or 2000s, I forget when it was. That whole Hewlett Packard, Carly Fiorini thing, she ran for president. I was all mixed up in that big mess. And Gunderson, and that's why I met Gunderson. But when I was talking to Gunderson about his lawsuit with Art Bell, and he told me, well, his insurance company was covering it, and it was Arizona Insurance was covering the lawsuit with Bell. Spurl tells me some new information that Gunderson told him. Now I regret it because I can never go back on the radio because I can't get insurance to cover me on the radio. Now, my understanding was, and me and Spurl seem to come to some kind of agreement on this. Having both talked to him, we feel it's a confirmation of both of our conversations. Because my theory has always been that when Gunderson was involved in the defamation lawsuit with Art Bell, the famous radio talk show host, I contacted him to try and settle it, to negotiate a settlement. And he told me, well, no, I'm not worried because my private investigator insurance. My errors and omission insurance is going to cover that for me, and they're taking care of it. But I don't believe you can get errors and omissions insurance for being a podcaster or being a talk show and a radio host. But you can get it for being a private investigator. But I'm not aware of being able to get it all encompassing over both, okay? I know that my PI insurance wouldn't cover my podcast, my radio talk, defamation on the radio. And then I had another experience with him, and then he told me his insurance covered this. I always assumed it had to be FBI insurance because I don't think he ever stopped working for the FBI. And I had a client who told me that she ran into him at FBI headquarters shortly before his death, and he was working there. He had an office there. He had a desk there. So, and people who claim that, COINTELPRO that's just for, I don't know what they think, if it's make-believe or something like that. Gunderson was COINTELPRO. That's a known fact. FBI office, Los Angeles office, ran COINTELPRO, and they're the ones that ran COINTELPRO against all those Black Panthers. And Gunderson used to tell me about how we stood up to the Black Power movement. We stood up to the Black Power movement. So this idea that COINTELPRO is some kind of a figment or something like that, it's just simply not. It's documented. It's real. So when I talk about coming into contact with people that are the COINTELPRO types, or those type of agents or assets, undercover assets, it's not something that's far away from me because Ted Gunderson was a guy I could pick up the phone and call. I did pick up the phone and call. So it's just not it's not some big woo conspiracy theory far away that I'm learning about through Googling. Anyway, we get into Heidi Fleiss. We get into a lot of stuff, man. Compton and the street gangs in Compton and their connections. A lot of stuff, and we're just talking back and forth and just off the cup, and you'll hear, he has connections to a situation, and so do I, but from different angles. So it's just a really good conversation with me and Tony Spurl, and he's coming back, and we're also going to have Nicholas Schreck come back too as well. So a lot of good stuff there. Let me see if there's some notes or something. Heidi Fleiss we talk about. Manson in the end. Okay. That folk singer, who had her husband killed. my Manson. Okay. Yeah, spell it out there, Ed. Let's see here. I'm going to have to go here and look for when I wrote about this. I apologize for this. I'm going to put you on a little pause here while I look this up. Okay. Make it nice and neat for you. Hold on. Okay. I found it. Hey, we talk about Bill Menser, Alan Graham, Bill Ryder, who was Larry Flint's brother-in-law, who he's the one that turned everybody in on that hit against Roy Raden, and it was his gun that they used and suffered no consequences, no charges whatsoever. Ted Rubenstein said that he was a CIA. Mitch Warbell, who was CIA, Mitch Warbell was the inventor of the MAC-10 machine gun. And he's the one who Flint paid to go assassinate Hugh Hefner and Bob Guccione and Frank Sinatra and all those folks like that. But then it turned out that the check bounced and it never went ahead. Ted Gunderson, we talk about. Arliss Perry and her husband, we talk about that. Larry Flint, Spooks and Hitman, Roy Raden murder. We get into Robert Evans. Tom Forssad from the Yippies, who was the head of the High Times magazine, who met with Robert Evans, and with this allusions to some coke dealing going on between the two of those. Tom Forssad was a heavy marijuana dealer on the East Coast there. Later on, went on to found High Times magazine, create High Times magazine, and did it in a partnership deal with Larry Flint Publications. That Larry Flint Publications would print out the magazine for him, and then he would buy the magazine after they were printed at a low price, and then resell them at a higher price, just like you would do like a marijuana deal. You'd buy it low and sell it high, which was very unusual for publishing at any time that I've ever known of. And that's a deal I guess Tom Forssad thought up. High Times, Heidi Fleiss, Suge Knight, Compton, Death Row Records, LAPD, all that shenanigans over there. Nicholas Schreck, Colonel Michael Aquino. You get into remote viewing and astral traveling and stuff like that, and then Major Ed Dames and things. A lot of stuff I didn't get a chance to ask him about that I really, really want to. And then Charlie Manson. That's coming up tonight. 2 hours of solid content there for you coming up tonight. And then don't forget the Misguided Patriots. That's coming up. It's in Patreon. It'll be playing next week. So a lot of good stuff for you. I have coming back too a Columbine survivor who was at Columbine. And there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with that Rocco Caserto and Barrett Brown. Turns out that these guys, they brought a whole bunch of traffic to my Twitter account, right? With all their shenanigans and all their controversies these guys have going on with people. They're at war with freaking everybody. But these guys go back to the beginning with Anonymous and Assange and all the Seth Rich people. And they know people that perpetuated the Seth Rich hoax that we're in touch with. You know, so it's just funny coincidence that they came out this week that they found a secret room at the FBI with Seth Rich documents. Oh, my God, what bullshit. Okay? Guys, you know, I'm biting my tongue on that Seth Rich thing. I'm not going to be biting it for much longer. But I can tell you, just if you know me and you love me and you trust me, just trust me. But Seth Rich is bullshit. There's no connection to... we went over this a little bit last week that... Assange was in the pocket. He was in Trump's pocket. There's text messages between him and Don Jr. Assange was still in communications with Lucifer 2.0 after Seth Rich was dead. You can Google the timeline yourself. Okay, the timeline's out there, man. It's impossible. If Assange is negotiating with Lucifer 2.0 and receiving this information from Lucifer 2.0, it's impossible for him to be getting it from him and Seth Rich both at the same time. It's just unlikely and impossible. Okay, and plus I have my own theories about what really went on there, and how CrowdStrike says in their first paragraph of the indictment of Roger Stone, it says that CrowdStrike became aware of a hack at the DNC, of a vulnerability there where information was taken out. It doesn't say that they found it. They became aware of it. They didn't discover it. They were brought in after they became aware of it. So I believe that the DNC became aware of it from a phone call from Putin saying, hey, we got this dirt on you. And the reason why I think that is that... they kept talking about they had all this dirt on Clinton. It's all this really, really big stuff, and it never came out. We never saw it. We never got it. We saw some interesting things, you know, a lot of bad stuff. You know, people trying to say to me, "Oh, Ed, you're so gullible. You think the Democrats aren't bad people." I'm the first one to tell you they're bad people. You know, you're totally not understanding what I'm saying. If you think I'm defending the Clintons or I'm defending the Democrats, it's just your brainwashing from this capitalism. But anyway. I'm in the mix now with these Barrett Brown guys and these guys, all this bunch here. They got a lot of resources. These guys got a lot of resources, man. And even after I was talking to Caserta, he comes back and sends me this huge, voluminous material about other guests I've had on the show previously. Okay, so there's a lot of material out there a lot of new resources I've come across this past year like never before in my life. Okay? Forget my own little life as a private investigator, which I'm considered pretty, you know, like a high-level private investigator. You know, you listen to these articles, world-renowned, respected U.S. private investigator, all this kind of stuff. And the sources I have in that, you know, I was, early on in my career, have really exclusive telephone company information that was really put me on the radar of a lot of big shots out there, big shot law firms and bounty hunters and bill collectors and law firms and stuff like that. And other PIs. Like I said, my work with Action Research, you know, but what do you call it? Also, too, in the past few years, my contacts with the media, starting from the Tiger Woods case, you know, and I guess you might call it like the tabloid media, you know, and TMZ type media and stuff like that. But what you have to understand is these guys have enormous resources and enormous connections. That's so much you really got to understand. Like, so many times you'll hear about someone will say something stupid like, well, I got a friend who's in the FBI. Or a really stupid one. Well, I know some people that are really high up in the military, and so they high up in the military, you have access to nothing. Okay, but bombs and shooting people. Okay, that you got. Okay, and military information. But you don't have high-level political intrigue and high-level, intelligence information. You don't have that, okay? And even your average FBI, even people high up in the FBI. Look, you see who I interview on this show. A lot of big shot FBI guys, a lot of big shot CIA guys. I'm not impressed with these guys whatsoever. Most of the times, these guys are coming to me, okay? And a lot of stuff, too, you'll see out there, I believe these people are MK Ultra, but meanwhile, when this thing's going on around them, where are their MK Ultra handlers dealing with them? Instead, they're coming to me for help. So, and I'm not convinced with a lot of stuff that's out there that's regurgitated and low hanging fruit out there that's put out there all over the place, man. And in the past year, though, the resources I've had have just increased so much to such new levels. One I really can't mention, but that's only going to grow. I have a whole nother area of resources with New York City government and stuff like that. That's just only going to increase and grow as time goes on. Then now this whole new thing here with these hacker types, I got all this new stuff going in there too. So we can only expect greater things from good old Opperman report as time goes on. Let's see how we're doing on time now. I kind of screwed up today. I thought today was Thursday. Okay, I had this show on the top of my head, so I'm not too worried about not having a shortage of notes and stuff like that. I've been ready to do the show. In fact, I even thought about doing it today because I have to do a live interview tonight at 7. I'm being interviewed. Got a shower, put on a decent shirt and haircut. But then I got a meeting Monday morning in Miami at this attorney's office, bright and early. And my plan was I was going to go Saturday. I was even thinking of taking a train. They have a train that goes up there too. That I'd like to sit down and it's a 5-hour train and you look out the window and see what it's like. It's supposed to be a nice train ride. But I'm going to wind up driving out there, And then there's a what do you call it? In Miami, they have this museum out there that has a farmer's market on Sunday mornings, and I want to check that out. So I was planning going Saturday, going to the farmer's market on Sunday, then Monday morning, bright and early, hit this lawyer's office and straighten him out. Fix him up what he needs. We'll be getting into that kind of stuff in a minute because we're going to be talking about discovery. Trump will never file a lawsuit because he's terrified of discovery. I was going to get a clip of Michael Scott from The Office when he comes out of his office and he goes, "I declare bankruptcy." I was going to play that and say, "I declare discovery." I don't know where this thing started. I don't know how it originated, where it came from, but it's, I guess, in the true crime court TV fan base, that the issue of the discovery phase of litigation, and somehow it became like this threat, like this tool of this you're going to destroy somebody if they have to, if they're on the end of a discovery motion. Because once you're in a lawsuit, you have to release everything in discovery, all your secrets, your dirty underwear, your sex habits, all going to come out in discovery. All this wild, crazy stuff, So, and then let's start with, first of all, that Trump will never sue people like Sacha Baron Riley because he's afraid of discovery. Because everything will come out in discovery. Why won't he sue Katie Johnson for defamation? Well, because he's afraid of discovery. Mr. Trump has been through the last, I looked, like 4,000 lawsuits. Okay, he's got like a dozen, 25, 30 going on right now. The last thing this guy's worried about is discovery. He's been through discovery more times than you can ever say discovery, or more times than your podcasters and your YouTubers and your Twitters and your Substackers will describe how terrifying discovery is to Mr. Trump. Okay, which is a lot of times. Okay, where do we start with this, man? Let's start with this. If all you needed was discovery, but what is discovery? Let's start with discovery. You file a lawsuit, and the first challenge is usually jurisdictional challenges. Right? Then it starts to move on. And then you'll get to a phase where, you have to, the judge gives you an opportunity. We have to have negotiations back and forth. You have to at least make an effort to negotiate with the other party, a settlement negotiation. And then if you can't come to a settlement, can't come to an agreement, then you file a motion for discovery. Okay, and what is discovery? Well, the other party has to turn over any documents or records that are directly related to this litigation. Okay, it's something directly related to this case. Okay, now, first off, okay, let's just say it's a simple case. It's a run-of-the-mill case. It's slip and fall. Divorce. Landlord, contract violations, contract dispute, something like that. Discovery, right? So you file a motion for discovery. Okay, well, we need phone records from this period of time to this period of time, emails from this period of time to this period of time related to this case. You don't get every phone call, every email, any bank accounts related to this, any bank transactions related to this. You don't get every, you don't get that. Okay. No, you're never going to get that. Okay. And even, if discovery was so all-encompassing that you get to see their x-rays and, they're going to be walking through x-ray machines and taking lie detectors for you and what people imagine, then what would you need a private investigator for in these cases? You hire a private investigator to find the hidden bank accounts, to find the hidden transactions and things that aren't being publicly discussed, to find the hidden safe deposit boxes, to find the hidden corporations, to find the trusts, to find the LLCs, to find this stuff. Okay, that they're not telling you about in discovery, because discovery is controlled by the person who's been served with a discovery request. Now, the first thing you do to challenge discovery is basic. One sec. Sorry about that. I got some stomach issues, man. I was throwing up all day yesterday, and I got some heartburn issues. But the first, when you receive a discovery demand, okay, a motion to compel or a motion to demand discovery material, it's going to be challenged first on procedural flaws, okay? And usually what that is the parties fail to engage in good faith to meet and negotiate what can be turned over. Okay, that's your first motion to quash a discovery motion. The second is, this is undue burden. It's overly broad. They're asking for too much. It's a fishing expedition, Your Honor. They're going on a fishing expedition to look for things that possibly that they should have known. They should have had these things. They should have known these things before they filed their lawsuit. And they can't file a lawsuit and now ask for the evidence against us and then ask us to provide it for them. That's overly broad, and it's an undue burden. Now, Your Honor, also too, they're asking for all this stuff. It's impossible to locate. It's impossible to get all this stuff together and gather all this information that they want. They're asking for things going back 10 years. It's all gone. We had a flood 10 years ago. All this stuff here. It's too expensive. We have to hire a whole team to go through all of our emails and decipher which ones are theirs and which ones are not. It's an oppressive burden, okay, for us to, it's an undue burden, and it's overly broad. That's your first challenge. which is granted, by the way, too, because these, unless this is a huge case, it's on TV, okay, like the OJ case, okay, the judge is making his decision. He's in a second, okay, he's going to look at this and glance at it and say, yeah, you're right, this is ridiculous. I don't want to spend 6 months on this trial. We don't have 6 months for this trial. Discovery motion denied. Another one is that it's privileged information. They're requesting documents or testimony that's protected by legal privilege, attorney-client privilege, work product doctrine, which would come under my exclusion. They can't get my PI reports. But what you do also, too, is when you're doing a PI report, is what I'll do is I return one report. Okay, you see that thing Christopher Steele, he does that little updates and stuff like that? I would produce one report, and I'll update that report in like a email format, ready to go in a report format. And then when I'm completed, I send it. And there's no other notes. There's no other, so I can't get subpoenaed for work product notes or any of that kind of stuff like that because they don't exist. Sorry. That's my response. Am I afraid of discovery? No, I'm not afraid of discovery. That stuff don't exist. I don't take notes. How do you like that? It's in my report. You got my report. We're done. Okay? So you guys out there screaming discovery this, discovery that. Now you're learning how things really work in real life. Okay? All right? Okay, and you could be asking for something that you're right, something you need. But guess what, man? It's part of attorney-client privilege, and you can't have it. Okay, irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the case at hand. It has no connection to the claims or the defense in this litigation, so it's irrelevant. That's another motion to quash. And trust me, man, the judge is more likely to go with these things rather than cause undue burden and undue expense on a defendant to give up everything that they've ever worked on, but in their whole life. Okay, trade secrets. Okay, Your Honor, these are trade secrets. These are confidentiality. We have clients that we have NDAs with that we can't produce all this. Okay, all of those things are valid. All of those things are valid. How about this? Harassment. Your Honor, look at them. They've posted on Facebook and Twitter saying that they were going to use the discovery process. They were going to abuse the discovery process, Your Honor, and demand things that are designed to annoy or harass or intimidate the other party, Your Honor. And here's a quote from them on Twitter saying, "Wait till we get discovery." Okay, that's whenever you see someone saying that stuff like that, man. I hope they sue me because then we have discovery. You just gave away a huge wedge that you had, okay? Because now they can point to that and say, look, they're just using this to harass us. This is part of their petty games they're playing on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, guys? This is why some people get served with cease and desist and some people don't. Okay, because they know who's stupid, okay, and they know who's immature, okay, and inexperienced, and falls apart and throws themselves in front of a truck or in front of a bus because they don't know what they're doing. So that'll give you some stuff there about discovery and the discovery process. Oh, Trump is so afraid. You cannot sue me because then you'll be subject to discovery. I hope people really, because, the other one I did that used to piss me off so much was about hearsay. This is all a bunch of hearsay evidence. Hearsay, that's hearsay. And hearsay, just so you understand, hearsay is an out-of-court statement. Okay, you got a guy in the witness stand, and he says, well, I heard my friend say, and he's testifying what his friend said to him. Well, I heard this cop say, or the cop said, I heard them say, okay, and the person who they heard from is not there in court. It's an out-of-court statement. That's what hearsay is. So, and if it's, if I heard the defendant say, And he's sitting right there. That's an in-court statement. He can get up and take the stand. I heard another witness say, well, that's an in-court statement. They can get up and take the stand. So you got to understand what hearsay is and what it means and how it works, okay? And I went into the whole thing about the hearsay exclusions and stuff like that and exceptions to the hearsay and exclusion. So I did a whole show about that, okay? And I think it's called like hearsay is not like yelling home base, because people think it's like home base, yell hearsay, you know. And someone else was just bringing up something recently too, and they were calling it hearsay. It had nothing to do. I said, you don't understand what hearsay means. Anyway, let's move on before I get too angry, because these kind of things really do piss me off, you know. Okay, let's see what's going on. I guess the big thing going on this week is Candace Owens. Or not Candace Owens. It's become Candace Owens. But this whole thing with Charlie Kirk. And the Charlie Kirk, it's not it's a preliminary hearing. It's the, what is that thing called? I might have to put you on hold. It's oh boy, I'm so sorry. It's a probable cause hearing. Okay, like I said, I thought today was Thursday. That's my excuse. Again, I got to jump in the shower. I got to comb my hair. I got to do a live interview, and then I got to jump in a car tomorrow morning and drive to Miami. So I apologize. Plus, I was sick all day yesterday. Doing the best I can. It's a probable cause hearing with Charlie Kirk, where basically the prosecution says, hey, judge, we're showing you all the evidence we have here so that we have enough here to take it to trial. Okay? And the judge is going to take this to trial. Okay? There's enough. Now, what's fascinating about all this, the thing I find the most fascinating, there's a lot of questionable things about this assassination. There's a lot of things that are very bizarre, and a lot of anomalies, you might call them. The shooter's changing clothes, is assembling the gun, disassembling the gun, all this kind of stuff. This bizarre text message between him and the furry trans boyfriend-girlfriend there. A lot of bizarre stuff. The DNA of the I forget the transferee's name, but their DNA on the gun and the screwdriver, and you know, that's kind of weird, you know. Why is there more of their DNA on the weapon than the Charlie's? And then this thing with the bullet, they dug out the bullet, can't even be directly traced back to the weapon. So there's a lot there for a not guilty verdict. Okay, there's a lot there. And the defense is not going to. The defense usually assumes that the probable cause hearing is going to go ahead. They're going to lose that. Okay, very rarely do you win that. But you hear what the prosecution has, and you don't throw all your defense out there. Yeah, you're holding back. So when people say, "Oh, look at this, it's slam dunk," and the defense has nothing, you're not going to shoot their load now. They're holding. Okay, for the real trial, and they're hearing everything because the prosecution is going to throw their whole. Everything they got. Plus, there's discovery. So we already know what they got. Okay? Oh, jeez. That's right. You just think the prosecution would never file a case because they're afraid of discovery. They'd be embarrassed. Because you'll get the prosecutors' home movies, you know, watch all their porno movies. But what do you call it? So there's a lot of questions about this, right? But it's turned into this thing where the whole TPUSA and a lot of these right-wing influencers are on the one side, and then Candace Owens and some other some weirdos like Ian Carroll are on the other side. And to discredit any questions about this assassination, you personally attack Candace Owens. That's pretty much the operation here. And you attack her by using Bible quotes and Bible verses. Jesus appears to be on the side of TPUSA. Can't you listen to this war on Twitter, this big giant flame war going on Twitter for days and days and days. Now, it appears that the TPUSA side, the Erica Kirk side, they're very well organized. There's talking points being spread around this bunch, and it appears that the certain influencers were waiting back for their check to come, and their check did come in, like Dana Lash and those types. You know, that you can kind of tell who's for sale and who's not, and so they're going back and forth, and mainly it's a personal attack on Candace Owens. Now, Candace Owens, you know, I'm no fan of her, man. Her whole Macron thing, you know, I think that's crazy. I think most of her stuff is crazy, you know. And it makes me, and there also seems to be another issue hovering around all this, and that is closeted homosexuality. There seems to be a lot of indications that Candace Owens is involved in a closeted homosexual relationship. That Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk perhaps was a closeted homosexual relationship. And a lot of the top leadership at TPUSA are closeted homosexuals. And then you got, Nick Fuentes and then Ben Shapiro, you know, and Milos Neilopoulos, he's right there out in the open. It's when you have a situation like this, right? I mean, you're looking at a bunch of witnesses that are going against each other, but there's certain places they're not going. There's certain things that they seem to be holding back. And it's usually because, well, they're both involved in crime together, or they're both have secrets, mutual secrets that they're both agreed to keep, you know. And if this goes on in campaigns doing opposition research, this happens in multi-defendant conspiracy cases, you know, where people start testifying against each other, but there's certain things they hold back because they're involved in other crimes with their co-defendant that they're testifying against and making deals against. This is all very common stuff. So for me to see this from the outside, looking at this, from someone who's not like brainwashed in love with Charlie Kirk, whatever that is, man, whatever that bizarre worship of this guy, like this guy's some kind of the Messiah. It's just, what is going on with that? That's so creepy, man. What, the guy was just a podcaster and a debater, you know, what was, you know? A little light in the loafers, if you ask me, man. You look at some of the picture of this guy and things, you know, he's out there talking about. They got a video of him talking about why he loves his wife, Erica Kirk, and he really can't come on. Oh, she's fabulous. You know, he's constantly coming up with what a normal man would say they love about their wife, you know? So I just found that to be a little odd. But it makes me wonder now, okay, because there is definitely some collusion going on between the two sides. They're covering up for all this closeted homosexuality. They're not going there. And there was all a bunch of grifters, okay? They're all grifting money on people. You know, they're making a lot of money on this, guys. This is not a little bit of money. This is a lot of money. Perhaps, and the way things are nowadays, it's more possible than not that Candace Owens is part of this operation too. Okay? For whatever reason, Kirk was assassinated. It was some type of an inside job. You look at all these bodyguards giving hand signals like, oh my God, what is going on there? You know, all this stuff. Then they rush to the body and they put things in their pockets. You know, they like go through the guy's wallet. You know, you watch some of these videos. Then they bum rush some guy who was, giving an interview afterwards. You know, and then the guy who was asking the question too. He's rehearsing his. There's a lot of stuff. And you know, I had a friend of mine who knew the president of the university, and the next day they're digging up the thing there and paving over stuff. You know, there's a lot of weird stuff, man. You can't deny. Okay? So whatever, let's give it that. Okay? It was an operation. An inside job to take this guy out. And the people who do these kind of things now, they have an understanding that, hey, this is going to get the scrutiny of the JFK assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, the Malcolm X assassination, the John Lennon assassination, the Kurt Cobain death. It's going to get that kind of internet scrutiny. So what we need to do is we need to control the opposition. And we need to have the person who's leading the skepticism and leading the challenges there to be someone who we put in there, or someone we control, or someone we can manipulate. Or we have some dirt on them, we have something hanging over their head. And who could that be? Candace Owens. She's a nut. She's got this huge lawsuit hanging over her head with this Macron lady, right? That's a dog of a lawsuit. She's going to lose that. So they do have some kind of control over her. She's in it for the money. She likes the money. They're all making money. And listen, you got to go back. There was another dispute recently between Loomer and Candace Owens about them using LexisNexis, and supposedly they hacked into a car dealership, and then it was the insurance company, the auto insurance company that they got information from. And I says, no, that's just a LexisNexis account. And people were coming off forward saying that there's going to be, I have it from good authority that Candace is about to be arrested, or that Loomer's about to be arrested for this breach of hacking personal information and identity theft. And I laughed it off. I says, no, you'll see, nothing's going to happen. I come to you with experience. I come to you and listen to my interview with the Spurl. I come to all this with experience, personal experience, life experience, educated experience in these matters. I don't talk about things that I don't know about. If I don't know about it, I don't talk. A lot of things I don't talk about math. I never talk to you about math. Very little history. I had very little. I think something. George Washington, first president. I know that. I know third grade history, man, and worse, second grade math. A lot of stuff I'm not going to, sports I don't know about. Okay, a lot of things I'm not going to talk to you about, but there's certain things I know, and that stuff I'll talk to you about. And I'll come to you from a position of expertise, okay, with no blushing. Do not blush, okay? So, and when I look at this, I'm suspect. I see some kind of shenanigans went on here, and I think, in my opinion, they put up Candace Owens. She's the one. I guess she's the Ruby killing the Oswald, in this scenario, or just a phony, kind of like that guy in 9/11, that guy who was working for Khashoggi, Gray, I think his name was, who wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, how he came in and suddenly started running all these 9/11 Truth Movement groups. Man, did a great show with Hopsicker about him. Let's see, I think I have notes for one more thing here, and then we are out of here, and then I got to shower and do an interview for cheating orchestration. Oh, it's Seth Rich stuff. Yeah, okay. I kind of already touched on that. I'm happy with what I did on that. Let's move on. Get this over to Ed Parnell. If you like our show, check out our Patreon. This week we have a show up for you early and ad-free called Misguided Patriots. It's a really good show. And you know how I am. If I'm doing a show that's a filler, I'll let you know. But if I'm doing good stuff, good exclusive stuff, then you're not going to get anywhere else, The Spurl stuff, you're not going to get anywhere else. I don't care who you talk to. And my stuff, you don't get anywhere else. That's about it. Let me just get out of here. But don't forget the Spurl stuff tonight, especially the stories about Manson and singers' husbands getting killed by Menser at a party. Okay, which is not talked about by anybody. But I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. And check out OppermanReport.com if you want to make a donate. Want to hit that donate button. Want to send me a message? It's OppermanReport@gmail. If you need a PI, it's OppermanInvestigations@gmail.com. All right, guys. Good night.
When you're down and troubled and you need some love and care, and nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there. a friend. If the sky above you grows dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow, keep your head together and call my name out loud. Soon you'll hear me knocking at your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, running, yeah, yeah, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. Now ain't it good to know that you've got a friend when people can be so cold? They'll hurt you, yes, and desert you, and take your